All right, and welcome to a special edition of Let Freedom Ring. Going to be talking everything Super Bowl as it is Super Bowl weekend. I have a few guests returning to the show, three former guests. We have Moira McCabe, Philadelphia Eagles fan, Dave Galeo, Kansas City Chiefs fan, and Frank DelleChiaie, which did I nail it?
You
Who
nailed
is,
it.
all right, I got these down, which is a Chicago Bears fan. Um, all right. Well, yeah. You guys all excited for the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh, I know
100%.
I
David.
know Dave is. But yeah. So we're gonna get into that. We have a bunch of fan questions from Facebook, so we'll start with those. First one is actually from Frank from Nick Kappa, another former guest, fellow bands fan here. Uh, my question is for Frank. What's your 2021 prediction for the Bears, and who's at QB? And do Nagy and Pace make it to the full season? And it the full season?
You just want to get my blood pressure up right away, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, believe me, their record is going to be dictated on who they have at quarterback, which is just a total mess right now. Being that every day when I turn the TV, it's like they're bidding for this guy, they're bidding for this guy, no, they're in for this guy. And some people that I see, it's like, for what it's worth, you're better off just actually keeping Trubisky there if this is what you're going to do. So, and let's just, worst case scenario, Trubisky is at quarterback. I would say at best like a 9-7 season from them.
Okay.
And it's going to be that defense towing the way, because that new defensive coordinator is actually one of Vic Fangio's right-hand guys. So they hired from within, which is good, which will get them back to being a more aggressive defense like they were when Fangio was there. Because Pagano, I like the guy, but he relied on too much zone, weak side zone, everything soft, playing off the ball, not taking chances or anything, and ended up suffering later on in the season.
All right. Yeah. I mean, they made the playoffs, so I mean, the Bears had. I mean, they did good enough to get there.
Back then, but
Yeah. All right, our next question from you guys all might not know Lori Poulin. Me and Frank play a lot of softball with her. She is a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, and she's very loyal to the Cowboys. She wants to know, are the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl next year? Mo, I'm going to start with you. They're in your division. Do you see the Dallas Cowboys getting to the Super Bowl anytime soon?
I mean, going off of what Frank said, I think it depends on who your quarterback is, because first and foremost, that's going to make or break who's going to take you to the promised land, whatever you want to call it. Dak Prescott injury, that's real tough. I mean, that was similar to what Alex Smith did, not to the extent. We just don't know if he's going to come back the same way he left. And I think that's a huge question. I think they have the talent, but the Cowboys have talent, but what show for it the last 2 years? And yes, that is coming from someone that's in the same division. However, that's also kind of what I've seen from them. I mean, if you look on paper, they're better than the Eagles, but for some reason, they're still able to compete in the same way. So I think it just depends. I don't know if I necessarily believe in Mike McCarthy. And they're also talking about moving on from Andy Dalton, who came in. I all this, but there was an episode you did with Cowboys fan. We see Andy Dalton in it for the Cowboys under center sometime this season. I didn't think it was going to be due to injury. I really thought it was going to be due to Dak Prescott poor play. So I think they're still going to be watching their Super Bowls on VHS tapes for a little while.
Dave, what do you think? Do you see the Cowboys at any point getting there?
I mean, you can win a division at 6-12. So I mean, anything could really happen there. They're not a complete team. I think if you draft a running back in the first round, you're wasting a pick. Yeah, and they did that with Zeke. I mean, I don't know. It's the Cowboys and Jerry Jones. That's all I got to say. I mean, once he's out of it, maybe.
He is the biggest, I would say the biggest problem with the Cowboys. It's almost like he became like how Al Davis was, this great owner who just went senile, and I guess that happens, these billionaire
They just
owners.
think they know more than everybody else.
Yeah. Frank, what do you think? You see the Cowboys making the Super Bowl?
That's hard no.
I'm also gonna agree. Sorry, Lori. We like to trash talk her a lot on Facebook. She's a good sport, though.
The talent's
All right.
there and everything, but it's like, who knows how Dak's going to come back from that injury. Usually you have to be, through that for about a year before you're somewhat back to what you normally were. And anything through the draft, they better take care of that secondary because it was just awful. It's like I said, the talent's there, the chemistry isn't.
Yep, I agree. I would take Dak Prescott if he comes back healthy. We're definitely desperate for a quarterback too, though I don't think I want another player coming off injury. As much as I was really rooting for Cam, it just didn't work out. And, it is what it is. I think you guys have all brought up a good point about quarterbacks. You don't have the quarterback, it's really hard to win, you know. All right, now this question's more directed towards Moira from Jesse Martineau, who spent some time in Philadelphia, which is where Mo lives, right outside the Philly Stadium. Having lived in Philly, I know they hate Tom Brady and Andy Reid. So what is the town going to do for the Super Bowl? Have the Murmurs scheduled a parade as alternate entertainment?
Great questions. And this is from Jesse, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what time period he was living in the city, but I think the attitude toward Andy Reid has changed a little bit. I think because the Eagles won a Super Bowl before he did, fans are a little bit more okay with that last year, and we're rooting for him to get a ring. There's a little bit of controversy with his family. I don't know if you noticed there was something that happened recently with his son, and he lost his son when he was with the Eagles, and he did really great things in the early 2000s for the Birds, but at some point it's like, but what have you shown me lately? And I think that even was a thing after the Eagles won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. I mean, regardless, I know that's not Andy Reid, but that's just an issue with fans in general. There's a lot of, but as far as like Tom Brady, I mean, I'm in an Eagles jersey right now, and sorry, Dave, but I want him to win tomorrow. It's a historical thing. It's not necessarily like like being the history, but I still think it's going to be a good game. I mean, I'm over it. Beat him, and I really wish that Wentz had beat him last year because it would have been 3 different quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. As far as the Mummers Parade on New Year's, that's like a thing that happens. I don't know if anyone saw the Jason Kelsey Super Bowl speech, but he was dressed in Mummers gear. He looked like a clown, but that's basically what they dress up as. And this is like something that's been going on since like the 17th century. A lot of different backgrounds get to have this, like, called it like, but Philadelphia, I guess it's like a George Washington thing. Like that all started when the country was forming, and they would get together and have these like string band parades and costumes and do like little skits. And unfortunately, that's also a little controversial. I'm not going to get into what happens during it, but they protested not having the parade this year because of COVID, unfortunately. So they still did it anyway. It was really awkward, but we had helicopter. I live like very close to Center City, and they had helicopters flying around showing these people that were just like having a parade, and it was truly interesting. But they used to have a wing bowl Super Bowl Sunday, and they stopped it after the Eagles won the Super Bowl because it was like trying to. I knew the Eagles would never be in it. The radio station stopped that because they had finally won. We're like, well, we don't really need to do this anymore. So I don't really think anything's going to go down.
I do need to make a trip to Philly as we've talked about. I definitely need to get to know that city. Dave, how do you feel about Andy Reid?
Give me more. I hope he doesn't hang it up if they win again. He changed the organization, man. I sat through so many 2-14 seasons with Elvis Garback and Matt Castle and just garbage. Always had somebody else's guy. He identified Mahomes, went out, got him, and just has made the kid amazing. I mean, it's fun to watch every week now instead of like burying my head in my shoulder instead of just not pacing around, like just not watching the TV. It's entertaining now, so it's good to watch some good football finally. And I know it's not going to last forever.
No, it being a Patriots fan, it felt like it did, and then
20 years is a long ass time.
Yeah. But we'll get into that. Bobby has a question too. It's a little lengthier. I'm going to come back to that. Well, let's get into some of our fanhood, our Super Bowls that our teams have won. Mark Zidane had a question, and we already had this in the show. But first question is, how did you become a fan of your team? Let's start with Dave. Let's start with you. How did you become a Kansas City Chiefs fan?
When I was a kid, like 10 years old, bought a red helmet at a yard sale. And I asked my dad who had a red helmet, and he was like the Chiefs, and we painted a Chiefs logo on it. And ever since then, I just like the Chiefs. So
nice. And Frank, how'd you become a Bears fan? I think I know. You and Morris, but let us know.
Well, that's where I was born, and believe me, the very first time I really got into them, well, that was the year that Walter Payton got drafted in 1975. I'm sitting there watching with my dad, and he's like, watch this guy, he's going to be something. And well, he was right. but yeah, that's what between that being born there and my dad driving, because my dad was a big sports person. That's basically what got me into it. It's to me, even still living out here for about 30 years now, still all about Chicago for me.
Awesome. And Mo, how'd you become an Eagles fan? I think that's just like in the McCabe DNA, but how did that come about?
Yeah, definitely was, bleed green. I was born in Delaware County, or Delco for short, so shout out to them. Barstool Sports was doing some recent pizza reviews in Philly and in that area. It was kind of cool because I lived right down the street from a few of them. Basically, I mean, I lived there until I was 6, and then I grew up in New Hampshire and left 3 years ago to come down here. And it would be really difficult for me to ever leave the area because I feel like I've missed so much, and I just know that it's something I guess you can't explain until you're in it, just like any fan. So, I mean, yeah.
Awesome. And I mean, for me with the Patriots growing up in New England, obviously I think I didn't like football till I played football, because my first love of sports was baseball, and I would watch the Braves and the Red Sox, and football was just kind of yeah, it's on, whatever. I think the first time I really started to notice things was probably when Bill Parcells was the coach. And I remember I was at a wrestling tournament. My dad was getting all the updates when they were playing the Jags in the AFC Championship. And I started liking football more when I started playing in middle school. And then obviously the franchise changes completely when I was in high school. I think I fractured my ankle playing football, and I saw all of the whole thing with Tom Brady. I didn't miss a game because I had no choice. I was laid up. You know what I mean? I didn't leave my bed. But yeah. It's just, and I think football has evolved and become better to watch with with HD and everything else, and it's become the dominant. I mean, baseball will always be our pastime, but I think football is taken over as the number one sport, obviously. But yeah, all right. Well, let's get into this couple questions here. So what was it like watching your team win? Let's start with Frank, because I think his team won the earliest in '86. Actually, beat down the New England Patriots. What was that like, Frank?
Oh, it was very surreal because I got to watch that game at the funeral home because my grandfather had passed away the week before, and so basically we were all content with not even like watching the game when we were there. And I guess my aunt motioned the funeral director over and guess asked him if he had like a spare television there, and is there anywhere to set it up? He goes, yeah. He goes, we could put it in, like in the waiting area. So hooked it all up and everything. She went to her brother. She goes, I don't know what you're doing, but she's like, Dad would have watched the game, so let's go watch the game. So we all sat all in the waiting area, like all packed in there, watch the game, and like and so that's why it was like surreal for me. It's like it was like a great victory, but at a loss.
Yeah, understandable. And I have two follow-up questions. What's your favorite moment from the game? And give me your thoughts on when the Super Bowl Shuffle came out, because that is a banger. That might be one of the greatest songs of all time.
Let's see. My favorite moment of the game had to be where at the goal line when McMahon handed off the fridge and he just bulldozed through the line, and that's where all of a sudden it's like I jumped and screamed so much I scared my mom out of her wits at that time. The Super Bowl Shuffle. I was like, that was something because they literally did that a day or two after they had lost their only game of the season to the Dolphins.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
that's
what are you doing here? And it's like I go. This shows like a lot of balls, so to speak. It's like I could even my dad was like, "What the hell is this?" My mom's like, "Wait, it's not Super Bowl time yet, and why are they doing this?" I go, "Well, why don't you talk to them, Mom?" Yeah. I go, but I just constantly listen on. It was always blasted on the radio in Chicago, and when the video came out, it's like I would just like start blasting in the house, and my dad's like, "Turn that thing down." He goes, "How many times do you have to hear it?"
I gotta say, and something interesting. I just thought they were all on board on with it, but if you look back, Sweetness and McMahon had to be edited into the video
Yeah.
because they didn't. I know McMahon didn't want to do it. I don't know about Peyton.
Yeah, they convinced them later, and they're like, "All right, fine."
Yeah,
it's really Galt's idea to do the whole thing.
Yeah, what a song! Like it's actually a really good song. Like, but yeah, very interesting. Mo, your team would win next. I'll get into mine last, but what was that like? Obviously, you had Carson Wentz that season, and he's having a great year, and he goes down. It's got to be nerve-wracking when the quarterback goes down when you're having such a great season.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that game against the Rams and got injured, and the report came out the next day he tore his ACL. Yeah, being an Eagles fan, you're always like, well, this is it. We were gonna, thinking something was gonna happen, and then, something like that does. And I'll say it till the day I die. It was the best and worst thing that happened to the Eagles that year, because we don't know if he stayed healthy, if he was comfortable. I was a Nick Foles fan prior to him coming back as a backup, and I still don't understand the Sam Bradford and Nick Foles trade from 6 years ago, but things happen for a reason. And Nick had a few pretty terrible games before getting to the NFC Championship game, and I'm sitting there like, okay, when's the shoe gonna drop? And he just played really well. I don't think anyone thought he was going to in the Super Bowl. He didn't really have a lot of passing yards, but there's a lot of run game. The defense was horrible, so it was very nerve wracking. And once Brady came back and they were up by like 1 or 2, I forget exactly how many points it was. I kind of sat down and was like, I think this is it, because once he gets that lead back, it's really difficult to come back. But then once that turnover happened, I think things settled down and sunk in a little bit more. And to be honest with you, it took me a few seconds once that ball hit the ground that you threw in the end zone at the end of the game to even think the game was over. So the reaction wasn't really like, oh my God, we won. It was literally silence. And then they were like, the game is over. And I just was, I still don't think it really hit me for a few months.
Yeah.
It was just those like I don't know.
Well, when you wait a long time for something and then it actually happens, especially in sports, I mean, I think a lot of us, I mean, me and you with our teams, we've seen our baseball teams win, we've seen our football teams win, but Frank waited his whole life to see the Cubs win. Like it's crazy when that happens. What's your favorite moment from the game?
It's tough because there was a lot of good moments. I would have to say the Philly special, probably. I don't think anyone was thinking that would happen. For him to go for it at that time was just like, well, be the best thing ever, the worst thing ever. He had that 50, 50. That Nick Foles actually called that play. I think Doug just agreed to it, and then was like, "Okay, let's do it."
Yeah.
And I mean, hearing the audio out, there's just like chilling still a little bit, but I think it's the best play. Even though I still didn't react, I sat there like a statue because I didn't want to get overexcited knowing that there was like still 2 quarters to play.
Oh, understandable. And Dave, your team has won the most recent. They're back in the Super Bowl this weekend. What was it like seeing the Chiefs win last year?
Well, starting from the first game in the playoffs, they were just down. They needed to be down. They couldn't play with a lead. They had to spot the team at least 20 points before they wanted to show up the whole time. So, like, I had cardiac arrest. I'm sitting in the chair, just like, going crazy. The Super Bowl, I expected the same thing was going to happen. They go down. And then once San Francisco took that team photo in the end zone there.
Oh, yeah, that's always a mistake.
Yeah, I was just like, all right, here we go. And that just turned the tides. And then it was just the Wasp was probably my favorite moment. Do we got time for the Wasp? So Jet Chip Wasp was probably my favorite moment of that Super Bowl.
Awesome. I guess for me, I mean, I know the Patriots have been in a lot of Super Bowls. Obviously, there's Malcolm Butler and the comeback on the Falcons, but it's really hard to. Those are all amazing, and but it's hard to duplicate the first, and because it was it's just unreal. I was only, I think, I was 16 at the time or 17 or whatever it was. And, wasn't drinking during the game or anything like that. I was just with my brothers and we went nuts. Obviously the kick from Vinatieri, but what sticks in my head was a genius like John Madden is saying to in that fourth quarter, what are they doing? Go into overtime. And, this 24-year-old quarterback, Tom Brady, who at this point we have no freaking idea this guy's going to go on to be what he became. He has the guts to just drive that team down the field and get them in position. And that once it went through, it was just an unbelievable feeling. I mean, obviously I don't think anybody could have predicted, because the Patriots weren't great. They were okay the next year. They just missed the playoffs, but no one would have ever imagined that like, if you would have told me in that moment, like this team's going to be good for the next 20 years, I wouldn't have believed you. There's just no way, So definitely my favorite moment, and definitely John Madden questioning the decision making. It was very interesting to watch. You guys have any favorite moments from involving a team that is not your favorite team? Mo, what any moments that stick out for you from other Super Bowls?
Yeah, well, the Cardinals and Steelers when Santonio almost caught that basically on in the end zone. I specifically remember watching that because the Eagles had played the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game that year. So I just wanted to see what would happen. And In no way a Steelers fan, but I thought they always have really good wide receivers, and I really think that that's a play that sticks out to me.
Awesome. Frank, what about you?
Actually, there's a couple actually. Actually, one that she just mentioned, the Steelers Arizona game, because you just once Arizona took the lead, you just thought it was over, and as soon as that pass left Roethlisberger's hands, I'm like, there's no way this is going to be caught in bounds, and I guess got proven like oh so wrong on that one. I'm like sitting there like up on the TV like this, look at the replay, and I'm like yes, because I wanted the Steelers to win, but yeah, another moment for me was it was John Elway on the scramble towards the goal line to get the critical first down, and then literally gets hit in the air and windmills to the ground. That was another moment because that was just like a hard nosed play. It was like doing what he needed to do, and that always say it's like he didn't give up. There was going to be no slide there, but I'm like, that hurt.
Awesome. Dave, what about you?
All the times the Bills lost.
Oh, and they had some. It is crazy to think to go to 4 Super Bowls in a row and just you'd think you'd have to win one of them.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was actually rooting for the Titans against the Rams, but that will always stick into my head how short they came to scoring that touchdown. Like that, it was just like, oh my God. That was, I think that's like one of the times I started to fall. Like I always watch the Super Bowl, but that was one of the times where it was like a real nail biter, and that I can recall at least. And to be that short, you go from being potentially the world champion to and a team that just came to Tennessee too. Like they hadn't been there that long. So, all right.
George was on that team, right?
Yeah, Eddie George. I was always a Steve McNair fan. Very sad, tragic how his life ended. But yeah. All right, now let's get into something that's been very controversial all over social media. And Moira is going to be the one to get the last point on this. She gets final say because it's a big debate, but none of us are as close to it as her. We got Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts. Everybody's arguing about who's going to be the starting quarterback. None of us have any idea, honestly. There's still a lot of offseason. Frank, what are you thinking? What do you think is the future? Do you keep both these guys or?
I wouldn't speak on like keeping like both of them as far as who you're going to start. I would literally have to go with Carson Wentz on this. I go it's still his team. Things just fell apart at the end of that season. I go, but now you got a new coach and just new blood, just new life being pumped into you. And I go, he really hasn't done anything to really lose that starting job. I mean, you look at when Jalen Hurts came in, okay, he gave you a little bolt of energy and everything, but if you really look at the numbers, it wasn't all that impressive. It just gave you a change of pace, but in the end, it really didn't change the outcome of like what that team was at the end of the season. I know it's still going to be Carson's team.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
I think you gotta have a battle, like off-season battle. Put them both up. Whoever wins that should be the starter. I mean, I think Hurts earned it to be a starter, and I think it's like Frank said, it's still Wentz's team. So I think it would be a good, healthy competition, and just take whichever one wins.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. I like to give Mo a hard time because I do like a running quarterback. I do really like that. But obviously, in New England, Cam this year really isn't Cam that was even 5 years ago. I do love to watch that type of quarterback. I think it's a lot of fun. I've watched Brady for so many years that when I do get to see a quarterback like that, I do enjoy watching it. But I don't disagree with you guys. I mean, we'll have to see what happens here. But I would keep them both, and like you said, we'll see who's the better one at the end of the day. But Mo, I know how you're in the mix of this. You live and breathe Philadelphia football. Who's taking it?
I mean, I've been, Team Carson since he got drafted, so I'm pretty biased in that aspect. I mean, the Eagles had been waiting for a franchise quarterback for almost a decade when they drafted. So, coming from a fan side, you're like, okay, can we actually have one guy and just like stick with him for a while instead of giving up on him really early? I'll be honest with you, the only jersey I grabbed in Westbrook was a Darren Sproles jersey and a Carson Wentz jersey, and that was in a span of 10 years. Like, I didn't have any Eagles gear during that time. For whatever reason, there was no one I wanted a jersey of. But going back to it, I think Wentz has done. Obviously, he's had more games, so there's more to. First and foremost, I don't agree we needed a quarterback in the second round last year. So I'll never agree with the pick. I don't even think he should be here at all. There was far more necessary weapons or someone on defense, the O-line, whatever you want to call it, that they should have had. And I actually am having a tough time with the Eagles organization in general right now. Toward the end of the season, and I'm not like this, I wasn't excited to watch because it's too much. It's drama, and the media is just out of control. There are trade rumors for Wentz, so we may not even see a battle, and we may just see a rebuild. And one of the figures that went to the Bears, and they're go. That they'll give up to trade him for. I mean, I wish the dude the best wherever he is. I hope he's still an Eagle. If they keep both, you gotta go with where your money is. They're gonna start the guy who's making them. I just, I get the whole running quarterback thing, but he's almost like a running back he doesn't really have a strong arm. Yes, maybe I'm biased for Carson, but I still just don't think they needed to draft another quarterback. It was just a wasted pick. And there are some that are on Jalen's side and some on Carson. At the end of the day, I'm always going to be on Carson Wentz's side. And it'll be the first time I'll buy a jersey if he goes somewhere else for a different team. So.
All right. Because New England has been talked about. I don't think it's because I don't think they're going to want to take that contract. But yeah, it's just been interesting. I think that's been like one of the hottest topics in football right now. Because I can't think of any other teams that are like an interesting quarterback battle going on at all. But let's
actually calling out the Eagles on what they're doing in bad business. I think it was Tony Dungy who said something and was like, what the heck is going on in Philly? Like, it's just drama and it needs to end. And it starts with the general manager, but the owner just loves the guy. I mean, he's been through 3 or 4 coaches and the general manager's still there. Has anyone ever thought about that before? Like, I've never heard that happen.
No, you would think that, yeah, if you're just blaming the coach and not the one getting the groceries, then,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, very interesting. Either way, I mean, I'm sorry, Mo,
no, sorry.
Yeah, no. I think it's just a very interesting thing going on there, and I agree. I do agree with some of the points. I think you keep both, and you figure it out once you get to training camp. All right. Well, let's get into some predictions here. It's been a really weird season. I think that we can all say that. You got some stadiums that have fans, some stadiums that have been empty. I guess, did you guys think that we'd even get through the whole football season? I mean, we're one game away. We finally got through the season. Dave, did you think that we were going to get through it?
Yeah. I mean, with the precautions they took, and they got protocol, so there's ways to get through this without having to just completely lay down. You got to keep moving forward. So I was pretty confident that the NFL would figure it out.
Frank, what was your thoughts a couple months ago? Do you think we'd be here? We'd be talking about the Super Bowl?
Well, when they first announced the season, I thought they were going to be hard pressed to really get through it without like just a big like blow up in cases and things like that. But as the season like progressed, I seen they had a little bit more of a hold on it, obviously. And there are some teams that got more affected than others, but for the most part, I mean, they pretty much got through the season. Cause I mean, compared to the size of like teams in NFL and like what they dealt with, you're going to have your cases here and there, but there was nothing that was literally like overwhelming, except for that little thing with like had to do with the Steelers having to like postpone games, move them around. Outside of that, it actually was pretty smooth.
Yeah, I was absolutely shocked because back in April when we thought the world was closing down, I was like, "Oh, Tom Brady signed with the Bucks? Yeah, nice, good idea, Tom. There's not even going to be a season, but as it started back in September, we saw Andy Reid with the shield on in the first game of the season. I really was like, "Oh my God, they're really going to do this, and it's gonna happen." Mo, what were your thoughts? You live in living in a bigger city. Obviously, did you think we were going to get through the NFL season?
I think it depended on that they were getting out there and exposing themselves to anyone. I understand it's difficult for the younger players who are used to being out and about to quarantine, and I from what the reports were from other teams, though, once they started reporting those, I was like, how are they going to play? But then all they did was take the people who tested positive and make them quarantine. They weren't playing that week. So, I mean, that hurt your team too. So if that had happened to us, I just would have been like, well, that's stupid. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to, I wanting to stop because it's like, well, you're taking away a portion of who knows if they even affected Cam for the rest of the season. So same thing with Lamar Jackson. And obviously, he made the playoffs, but I think he had a little down year. So, yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, I'm surprised they let fans into the stands here because there are restrictions in the city. Right now they just opened up restaurants, but restaurants have the say of whether or not they're going to allow people to dine inside. And everywhere I've gone, it's all outside. But the good thing about that is, it's been warmer, but it's going to get cold again. So, I mean, it's just a difficult situation we're all living in still.
Yeah. I'm just glad that they got through it because I think honestly, like, America needs football. We do, and it was good to have it. Yeah, and the Patriots did have a lot of opt-outs and whatever. I honestly would have taken the season the Patriots had this year over not being able to watch them every weekend, to be honest. Like, I would have watched them go 0 and whatever just so that I could have my Sunday tradition of watching football. So maybe that's just selfish, but that's how I look at it. All right, let's get into predictions here. Who we got tomorrow and a score. Dave, you're going to be the main event on this one because you are probably the most emotionally invested into this game. Yeah, as I am rooting for Tom Brady. I got my Brady Bucks jersey before I even knew what that team, was going to be good or anything. I always am going to root for Tom, even though I will admit at parts in the season it was hard when the Patriots started to suck. But Frank, you go first. Who's winning? What do we have for a score?
All right. Well, I'm a Midwest guy, so I'm siding with Kansas City on this one. And it's going to be a relatively close game, but Kansas City's going to pull it out, and I say by a score of 31-20.
Okay. All right, Mo, what are you thinking?
Like I was saying, I just don't see Brady losing at this point. I think he's shown that he can win with any team, and I'm confident that that's the case. And I think the Bucks win 29-25.
All right. Now I said on my show, I had a weird, this is my show. I'm sorry. On my show the other day, I said 28-23 Bucks. It's going to be I think it's going to be a weird game. But I mean, the Chiefs are a juggernaut. So, I mean, if Tom Brady is able to pull this off, he's already the GOAT, but like, if he wins this game, like, just anybody that doubts it anymore needs to just stop. You know what I mean? Because this would be, I think, one of his biggest achievements, especially at his age. But Dave, who do you got? I think I know who you have, but what do you think?
I get. Even though it's a home game for the Bucks, I'm gonna say 34-31 with a last second field goal to seal it for the Chiefs. And see you later, Brady.
And the other thing that I keep thinking about this particular game is the last person to beat Mahomes in the playoffs is Tom Brady. Obviously, it's a very different situation here. What do you guys think of this, though? Obviously, I think Patrick Mahomes is now the face of the league. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But what are your thoughts on Tom Brady at 43 years old doing what he's doing? He doesn't have to have perfect numbers, at all. It's just the fact that he's getting to another Super Bowl at his age it's mind-boggling.
If he wins this game, it's going to be like he'll have more Super Bowls than any franchise. So that will seal his fate in NFL history, I think, forever. Obviously, if it isn't already, it is. But that would just be the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah, it's just unreal. 43. Frank, what would you ever think you'd see a quarterback do something like this at all your years watching football?
I can't say that I would ever see it, but longevity as far as how the game is played today and how safe they are with it. It's like you're going to see more and more now where careers are going to be extended. I'm not saying they're going to go the ways of like Tom Brady as far as the accomplishments or anything, but as far as like longevity and everything, I see that being extended now just because of all the precautions and everything that they take now as far as like people not being like brutally hit, because a lot of times that just ends up just shortening a career.
That's a valid point. Very valid point. That's talked about quite a bit. Mo, what are your thoughts on this? 43-year-old quarterback in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think was there one other person that's done this, or am I thinking of something else?
Wasn't Blanda 43?
Was he in the actual Super Bowl?
I don't remember. I wasn't alive.
Yeah. I thought he was in the playoff, but I could be wrong. I could definitely. But they do the comparison pictures of Brady versus him. Back in that day, like football players were smoking cigarettes at halftime. Like you would never see that today. Yeah, So.
We've discussed. You believe in the TB12 system, and clearly it's working. I don't know who could replicate that. Like, if we're ever gonna, I don't think we'll see that in our life. I think we may see quarterbacks win multiple Super Bowls, but not, especially going to as many as he's gone to, and at the age he did it. He basically, he could have a few Hall of Fame careers for what he's done. Some of these guys that are Hall of Fame guys, obviously he's first ballot, but you compare him to the guys that, the Drew Brees or the Peyton Manning, like the modern era guys. And it's just like there's no comparison. It's really amazing.
Yeah, whatever because I know Belichick couldn't stand what's his name, Guerrero. He didn't want him in the locker room or anything. But obviously, this guy and Tom they got the fountain of youth in a bottle or something. I don't know. It's really crazy. I might want to take it and play softball forever. It's just insane. I don't think
for me.
Yeah, Frank's already doing it. So. All right, we're going to get into blank versus blank, which we've got some good ones here. Bobby had a question. Outside of the Super Bowls 20, 52, 54, what are your top 5 Super Bowls you actually viewed? I think it's a very lengthy question, but if I could just take this out, what's one Super Bowl that your team was not in that is your favorite? Let's start with Dave.
What was the question?
What's your favorite Super Bowl your team wasn't in?
Favorite Super Bowl team wasn't in. The Eagles Patriots one.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
Obviously not for me that night, but it was a good game.
Nick
Frank,
Foles
what?
winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean Nick Foles, who I was it Chip Kelly that traded him, Mo?
Yeah, it was Chip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did him dirty, even though Chip is from New Hampshire. But Frank, what's your favorite?
Oh, me, it would have to be. It was San Francisco, Cincinnati. The first time I met the 81 season after the catch by Dwight Clark. But it was a back and forth game. Came down to the last 2 minutes, and my boy Montana just drove him down the field and said, "Cincinnati, it's time for you to go home." And I love when he's going in the huddle in the middle of like a 2-minute drill. Sees John Candy on the sidelines. He goes, "Hey, it's John Candy."
John Candy, yeah, that's amazing.
And then he goes, the game's on the line. He's like, "Hey, look, it's John Candy." Yeah, the third day, and that pass to John Taylor, I'm like, yeah, outside of my team, that definitely is one of my favorite Super Bowls right there.
Awesome. Mo, what's your favorite outside your team?
I'd have to say Super Bowl 44. It was Colts in the for one. I think
Yeah.
waiting for like a while to get over the Hurricane Katrina, and I think that really helped like all the struggle it had been through and all the pain and whatnot. But you had two quarterbacks of Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, and it was just cool to see someone who started out on a team who gave up on him go somewhere else and win a Super Bowl, and the guy who they took was like out of football because of other personal issues. So I just like the underdog in that, and Brees is a smaller quarterback, and I kind of like that, and just did it in a different way, and it was really cool.
And the balls to kick that onside kick to come back.
Yeah.
At that stage in the game, I had so much. I couldn't. I actually like the Manning brothers. I couldn't stand Peyton at that time, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe the Saints just did that! Like that was unreal." I'll probably go, and I've talked about it before. Rams Titans. That was a great game. Obviously, I think that's probably like my favorite outs. But you bring that up, Mo. That is up there too. I really enjoyed that game. All right, let's get into a little blank versus blank here.
Oh,
And
boy.
this is Super Bowl edition of this. First one we got, and we'll go around here. Quarterback in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady or Joe Montana. These are Montana is probably the most compared to Tom Brady. If you got to take one and you're in the Super Bowl, who are you taking? Dave, let's start with you.
Brady. He's the best, man. You gotta go. I mean, he's the best. I'd take Brady.
Brady. Mo, who you got?
Same with me. I think we may see in an Encyclopedia Sunday Super Bowl, they might call it or something like that. I really think that that's something that they may. I don't know. That's like far fetched, but I could see them doing something where they have some type of award or something named after him once he retires. So I'm going Brady.
Frank?
As much as it pains me like to say this, I literally at this point in his career, I have to go with Brady on this one. I go Montana is obviously right up there with him as far as being clutch, but just over a longer period of time, Brady just keeps on doing it over and over again. I mean, which annoys the hell out of me.
Yep.
I'm obviously gonna go Brady too. Yeah, Montana was great. One cool thing about the 49ers is that they were able to find a quarterback after Montana. Now, I know that Brady was here a little bit longer than Montana had there, but it'll be interesting if the Patriots can find another quarterback, because to get Joe Montana and then Steve Young, I mean, it's very similar to like Favre and Rodgers, so. All right. More, I guess, what play did you like better here? We got the 2000 a yard short. I know I brought up the Titans Rams a couple times, or wide right, 1991 when the Bills lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl. Let's start with Frank on this one.
Oh, I'm going with wide right on this one because I literally thought that Buffalo was had a chance like to pull that out, and I'm like, all right, Scotty Nolan's gonna do this. But as soon as it left his foot, I think my eyes just went blank. I go no. I go that's swinging. I go wide, and like I'm saying wide right before they even announced it on TV, and it was just a painful thing to see. It's just that it was along with the other one, it was just right there. But with a long suffering like Bills franchise, I mean, that one, it had to be gut wrenching for him.
I can only imagine. Mo, what do you got here?
I got the yard short. I specifically remember that because the Rams had played the Eagles in the NFC Championship game that year. So thinking about it, it's just like, oh, this stinks that they're not in it. But just knowing how hard that player tried to get in the end zone, it just goes to show you that it truly does mean something, and it's not just these guys getting paid. They really wanted to win for their team.
Good answer.
And also, to be honest, I didn't even know about that other play. So, but I think I still would pick, if I did know it, I still would pick the 1 yard short.
Dave, what do you got?
I love when the Bills lose, but I remember the yard short a lot better, because I was just older. So I'm going to go with that one. Just seeing Dyson just sprawling out and just reaching and just getting yanked back and coming up short. That was probably my favorite one.
Yeah, looks like I got to throw at first base from one of you guys.
Oh yeah. I'll go yard short too, just because I 91. I didn't see it. If I watched that live, I don't know. Honestly. All right, here's a good one because we're talking big upsets here. Now you got Broadway Joe Namath, going to the Super Bowl against the Colts, and the AFL is kind of looked at as a joke, right? In 1969, because they're gonna have this is the third Super Bowl, I believe. And he guarantees victory. Then you got the Giants versus the Patriots in 2008, and I forget who someone on the Giants guaranteed victory, but the Giants end the perfect season of the New England Patriots. What are we going with? I mean, I think what Joe did and the Jets did is so important to the history of football. And even as a Patriots fan, though, that Giants taking that game was shocking. Mo, let's start with you.
Yeah. I think I'm going with the latter. I remember watching that game in my dorm room, and I actually thought the Patriots were winning. And then when the game was over, I was like, I didn't even I guess I wasn't paying that much attention, but I just was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, for the other part, that's what I'm thinking.
So you're going with Joe, the Jets beating the
Colts? No.
Breaking the undefeated season.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. We lived that one. Frank, what would you go with?
Let's see. Well, the Jets wouldn't be going because that was the year I was born. So, but I literally have to go with the unbeaten season because you win there as a juggernaut, and again I hated that because I'm like, oh, they go on. I'm never going to hear the end of this. But it was actually Plaxico Burress who was the one who guaranteed.
It was Burress? Okay.
Yeah. And he said, the final score is going to be, it's going to be 21-17. So Brady gets wind of that, and he's in the press conference. He goes, oh wow, we're only going to score 17. Well, Plaxico, you're right. You only scored 14. So I just like the way that they just stuck it to him because that was a time where the Patriots were complacent.
Yeah,
and I mean, the guy who predicted it was the one who caught the winning touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, I mean, they were blowing teams out. I mean, when they got Randy Moss, it was like, holy crap, you know. But yeah, no, I like that. And Dave, what do you got?
Oh, that loss was awesome when the Giants beat the Patriots. But that's probably going to be the only time the Jets will ever win a Super Bowl. So I got to take Joe Namath.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take Joe too because obviously I'm a Patriots fan, and that was a horrible night for me. A
Oh,
lot of fights happening at Plymouth State that night. But I also just think that the Jets winning that game, the it kind of brought it's kind of what we see with the NFL now. The AFL was looked at as an absolute joke, and no one gave because I think the first two Super Bowls were blowouts. I'd have to look it up. I'm not sure. I guess off the top of my head, but for Joe Namath to say Broadway Joe to say, "Hey, no, we're gonna win this," I think it changed football. Could be wrong there, but I really do just think like in the history of the league, it had such an impact on. Okay, this league can do it too. You know, so all right, let's take it. All right, another one that you guys may love because it's Patriots haters. David Tyree's catch in that Super Bowl, or Malcolm Butler's interception in 2015. We'll start with Dave this time.
I'm gonna go. You're gonna be floored here, but I'm gonna take Malcolm Butler's pick just because that was such a bonehead call. I mean, what are you doing, Pete Carroll? That was so terrible.
Yeah, you have the greatest running back in the league, and you throw on that. It's mind
Head
boggling.
scratcher. Yep.
Mo, what do you take?
I am going with the same as Dave. Reason being is because I was with you when that happened, and
Oh yes,
it was to see my friends, celebrate, regardless if it's not my team. Like my friends to be happy, and it was fun that you guys were able to enjoy that win.
it was. We went from like we're Fuentes was like, "Oh, this room's quiet." It's like, "You're damn right, it's quiet in here. Like we're about to lose." Um, all right. Well, Frank, what do you got?
oh, I'm totally going with the Tyree catch here. I go. It's no detriment like to the Patriots. I go. You know, if Pete Carroll doesn't make a bonehead decision, that play never happens. So, and but that David Tyree catches like everything about it with Manning, who looked like he was about to get sacked, just scrambled out there. And obviously you can say they kind of just like threw it up for grabs. But with Rodney Harrison just like draped all over Brain to knock it out, and for him to keep it just locked to his helmet the whole way down when he's trying to knock it, it's just everything about it. I go, you can call it a fluke, you can call it like luck. I go, Patriots fans can't say that anymore after Edelman made the catch against the Falcons. Hey, you want to
True.
talk about fluke and luck? I go, well, there you go. Now you're even. But that David Tyree catch is just everything about that play was just like you go from like oh no to like how did that happen?
I have to admit, so I'm going to take Malcolm Butler just because out of fanhood. But you said it right though. How the hell did he do that? He's got Rodney Harrison, who's one of the best Hall of Famer, on him like that. Manning's about to get sacked. He throws up the ball. It was heartbreaking as a Patriots fan. But like, how the hell did they do that? Like honestly, David Tyree, I don't know what he was. I don't think he was doing much in the NFL like before he did that. So it
Or after.
or after, yeah, it almost tells you like the Super Bowl brings out these play like you're talking about the Edelman play. I got this picture right next to me. I can look at it right now. The Super Bowl brings out plays that you would never see in the regular season. You would never see these plays happen in the regular season. People go balls to the wall. It's crazy. All right, who would you rather have if you're playing Tom Brady in the Super Bowl? One guy beat him twice. One guy's beat him once. Who you taking, Eli Manning or Nick Foles? More.
Oh.
I would have to, and this is going to be an unpopular call, but I would have to say Eli Manning, and only because Nick Foles hasn't put up like consistent numbers in a season. Like I don't think he's finished full season since 2013, and even then he replaced Michael Vick. So I just don't. If he's a backup and comes in, maybe, but I just don't see it happening.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Dave, who you got?
You're gonna have to take the Pats killer, Eli. He's just got a proven track record. He can do it, you know.
Yeah, what's the saying? You can't spell elite without Eli. Frank, who you got?
Oh yeah, I'm going with Eli myself. Just like Dave said, just more of a proven track record, and the fact that each time he was in the Super Bowl against them, each time he wasn't supposed to have a ghost of a chance of winning those games, and he wasn't one to talk smack either. He was pretty quiet back there, and he just produced, and in the biggest game possible, and beat one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I'll take Eli too. I never was an Eli hater. I hated the Giants after those Super Bowls, but like still, Eli Manning didn't really talk a lot of trash. You know what I mean? Like even his brother, they were very just like they weren't. People hate them, but they weren't like bad guys. They just weren't. They weren't like the villains you would think of when you think of sports and stuff like that. All right, two teams that blew teams out in the Super Bowl. We got the '86 Bears. You know where Frank's gonna feel on this one, or we get the '93 Cowboys. Which team are you taking, Mo?
I think the Cowboys. Yeah.
They were a dynasty because they go to win a couple more after this. But they really handed it to the Bills quite a bit there. Yeah. Dave, who you got?
I take the Bears.
I'm sorry.
That was just a great team.
It's not. It was the '85 Bears. I'm sorry. The Super Bowl was in '86. It was the '92 Cowboys. Super Bowl was in '93. But Frank, who you got?
Oh, it's always going to be the '85 Bears for me. This is a silly question to ask. I go, it was just total domination. It's like they went there. It's like the whole time, even leading up to the Super Bowl, all throughout New Orleans, it's almost like New England wasn't even there. It's just the whole stigma and everything around it. It's like this was one of the few times they had like an overall good team. The focus was purely like obviously on the defense, which is justifiable, but that offense was just as good.
What was the zone? What was the zone called? Because they say in the 46 zone or something.
Yeah, it's the 46 defense. Yeah. And that defensive playbook, when Buddy Ryan first said that playbook was like this, and it was flushing a lot of guys, and even Mike Singletary, it's like nobody was like getting this, and it's getting Buddy Ryan frustrated. He goes, "Well, Putty, you're like giving this. There's just way too much here. Nobody can really get all this." And that literally like a week later, Buddy Ryan comes back, and that defensive playbook is like cut in half, and just made it so the terminology and everything was just that much more easy to catch up. But there was so much that 46 defense, nobody was really going to soak that in.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm going Bears too, because even though they beat the Patriots, but I was only 2. Just the cast of characters on that team. If you watch that, like Sweetness and the Fridge, you're looking at the Fridge. I'm the rookie. Maybe they just. I actually like that they made that video like that before they started the playoffs. Like that's really believing like we are going to do this. And I know that I forget who the player was who wanted a career after football and entertainment, but you got to. There's just something about that. I just really love, All right, 2 teams to beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. We got the Chiefs in the last Super Bowl. We'll call technically the 2019 Chiefs, and we got the 2012 Ravens. Which team was better? Frank, you start this one.
This
might be a slam dunk.
But I mean, to me, kind of like because I'm always, big on like the defensive side of the ball, and even though they, they San Francisco made a run towards the end, I would have to say that, the Ravens, were the better of the two there. I mean, no detriment to Kansas City because they're great in their own right, but I still think that the Ravens, I would have to go with them.
All right.
Because that's when Joe Flacco still actually had some game, but that defense was killer.
And he got paid. He got paid after. I'm also gonna go. Ooh, this is a tougher question. I wrote the question. I'm gonna go Kansas City because I'm an offensive guy. I really love watching Patrick. I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I like really watching Patrick Mahomes. Mo, then Dave.
I'm in the same boat as you, Dan. I know thing that 2012. I think it was fun because Baltimore is a smaller market, but I'm just looking at it from the quarterback comparison and looking at Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Flacco. I mean, there's no comparison there, so I'm going Chiefs.
All right, Dave. I think we know where your head's at, but
I'm going Chiefs, obviously. That was like one of my favorite memories of all time. And, yep, there'll never be anything better than that unless if they win tomorrow. That might be better.
all right, and last question, not really blank versus blank, and I just want to make sure I have this right. Pittsburgh has 6, right? Patriots have 6. Cowboys have 5. And the 49ers have 5. What is the greatest franchise in the Super Bowl era? Obviously now, I mean, what are we at 50? We're at 55 tomorrow. Is tomorrow Super Bowl 55? So this is Super Bowl has been going on for a long time. What is the greatest franchise? We're just talking Super Bowls. So the top 4, again, Pittsburgh, New England, Dallas, San Francisco. Dave, who you got?
I'd have to go probably. I can't go New England, so I'll say Pittsburgh.
Mo, who you got?
I have the Patriots, only because they got all their Super Bowls within the same time frame, whereas the Steelers had them in the 7th, and then you have a couple now, so it was spread out. And I know that the 49ers had a good run, when they had their few, but I don't think that was all combined. If I'm not mistaken, but yeah, I just think that when you do it so well, that's what everyone's going to be gunning for now, is to try and win them like they just did in the last 20 years. So I think it's the Patriots.
Frank, who you got?
It was between like Pittsburgh and 40, but I have to go with the 49ers here. Because they were throughout the whole age, they were consistently a good team. And back to back, a couple of times. But then you piggyback like 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Joe Montana, and then like once he's gone, then Steve Young's like, don't worry, I got this, and he brings a couple in also. So I mean, granted, New England obviously did it with like the same quarterback, but I'm with Dave on this, so I just can't bring myself to say
it. And as it stands right now, I'm going to say, yeah, it's definitely between Pittsburgh and New England. I'm obviously New England fan. I'm going to give it to them, but I want to see out of this franchise. Because if you're talking franchises, you're not just talking about one, you might not be talking about just one owner. You might not be talking about one coach or one quarterback. I mean, they were able to do this with those 3 guys, right? It'd be interesting to see if the Patriots can continue this with a different quarterback, with a different coach. But to have the 6 in the stretch that they did, I'm going to put them, but I think Pittsburgh should get a huge pat on the back for it being spread out and doing it in different time periods. But I'd say these are the 4 marquee, when you talk Super Bowl franchises, that there are. But no, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. Dave, good luck tomorrow. You
Oof.
know, a big game. You know,
There's
I
gonna be
will
a
be
lot of
rooting.
pacing.
Yeah. You know, I'll be texting you throughout it. But yeah. Anything else you want to throw in at the end here? Anything?
Go Chiefs.
All right. Go Chiefs. Go Bucks.
F the Packers.
Yeah, fair
Go
enough.
for it.
All right,
Have a
guys.
great day, guys.
I really appreciate this. It was a lot of fun, and we'll until next time. Let freedom ring.
All right.